Hi, this is Eli Kranzberg, and welcome to this series on the new Mixbox plugin from IK Multimedia. Now, this is a new channel strip style plugin, and the graphic user interface is designed around the old SSL 500 series rack format processors, and they're often referred to as lunchbox style processors due to their swappable and vertical orientation, and you'll see when I load some in a moment how they look and act like the 500 series rack units. Now, Mixbox contains 70 modules, and they're taken from IK Multimedia's T-Rax plugins, Sample Tank, and Amplitude. So you've got the best from each all distilled and rolled into this one meta plugin. The interface is like a single rack with 8 slots for up to 8 insertable and interchangeable modules. And Mixbox works as either a plugin within your DAW or as a standalone app, which is great for live use. Right now we're looking at the DAW version, and we're going to focus on that in this video, and we'll look at the standalone app and features separately. Now, in the standalone, you can set up as many as 8 racks and then combine them and assign them to your audio input and output devices. You can have up to 64 modules, but in this plugin version, we work with one instance at a time where we get one rack with up to 8 slots. So by default, the view is minimized to display 4 modules like you're seeing here, and that lets you work in your project with no wasted screen space. It's like a mini rack view. Now let me load in a rack preset from the bottom here just to show you how this works. I'm going to go to vocals, and then I'm going to go to female EDM just to load up the rack. So we're seeing 4 modules, but in this mini rack view, we can still scroll with the scroll bar here to view modules 5 to 8. We can also use the scroll wheel on our mouse. Now, if you want to view all 8 at once, no problem. We just click on this double arrow button up here, and now we've got the full rack displayed. So this is the main view, and we're looking at a full rack now, and you can simply click and drag to swap them around. So you see how easily interchangeable they are, and this is the vertical Lunchbox 500 rack look and feel and vibe when we're working like this. So here we have module selectors numbered from 1 to 8 for the 8 slots, and we can click in each slot, and there we get a menu with the different types of processors and then the individual processors within them. And of course, we adjust them each individually like that, or we can call up a full rack preset like this. Let me call up another one. Let's say this one, which only has 5 modules. And here we can then see the empty slot and then just call up whatever it is we need or want. So we've got bypass buttons and module selector fields for each. Now we have an info button here to bring up info on your version of Mixbox that you're using. And then we have some sections at the left and right. So here we have an input meter, and then we have an input level slider, which is very useful for controlling the gain staging into the whole rack. And at the bottom here, we have a wet-dry slider for each of the individual processors. So we can create some parallel mixing, which is really great. Like let's say you have some distortion, you can just start with dry and dial in a little bit of it. Or reverb like this. We might want to use this to control the dry-wet blend, but great for parallel processing, especially for saturation type effects and time-based effects like delays and reverbs. Now, when this isn't pressed, we have the rack preset menu here, but if we click this, we can get access to individual module-based presets. So for example, here I'm going to see tape echo presets, and I can call them up for here. And we, of course, get unique ones for each of the different types of processors. So we can save the settings here. Let's say I want to save this as, I've adjusted it and I want to save it as my own. I'm prompted to name it, and I can choose the location, and it defaults to the folder for this specific module. Let me show you where this is. When I click on here, in your user folder in Documents, we go to IK Multimedia, Mixbox, and Effects Presets, and here are the folders for each of the 70 processors, and then there are the presets. And I'm going to cancel it for now, but that's how we save those. And when we're out of that mode, we get the rack presets where we can get the same save as functions. And again, same pathway, but we have rack presets instead of effects presets. And we've also got undo and redo buttons here. And you can see I'm undoing the preset changes that I've done in the last few steps. Now, on the right side, we have output meters and an output level slider. Again, good for gain staging. We have a master power button, which is great for like a global bypass. And here we have access to the rack edit panel. So this is the main view you'll likely be working in, but we click this to get to the rack edit panel. And here we have the module selectors on top. So we get the same drop-down menu with the categories and individual processors, power buttons as well, and they're numbered 1 to 8. But here we can also adjust the level of each of the modules. We have a solo button, which is great, and a sidechain button. So if we're working with sidechain input into the plugin, we can enable it or disable it specifically for the processors that support sidechaining, like these two are Dynamics processors. So it makes sense that they would have them. And when we're in this rack edit panel, we can still convert the view on the bottom here to the individual module presets. And we can still access the wet-dry sliders as well. So those are the basics for getting around the plugin. Next video, we'll take a look at the standalone version.